Om Apyayantu mamangani Vak pranaschakshu shrutramatho balamendriyani cha sarvani sarvam brahma upanishadam maham brahma nirakuryam ma brahma nirakarut anirakaranamastu anirakaranam mestu tadatmani nirate ya upanishadsu dharmaste mayi santu te mayi santu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. May all my limbs attain strength. May the body, the mind, all the sensory and motor organs and the life force attain to great efficiency and power. All is verily the one without second, ever perfect, ever blissful, existence itself. Let me never deny this truth of one without second, blissful existence, the Brahman. May the Brahman never reject me either. I understand that experiencing this blissful, all-pervading Brahman requires acquisition of some virtues spoken of by the scriptures. May all these virtues be with me. Om, peace, peace, peace. Let us try to feel this all-pervading, blissful Brahman by going beyond our particular form that we are identified with. Let us feel our body, which is just a covering, like our coat. Let us imagine we are taking it off. Just like we take our heavy winter coats out as soon as we get into the warm room. We take it out and then put it on the hanger to use when necessary. So let us unbutton the body. I am not the body. Actually, I unbutton it every day when I go to sleep. But it happens unconsciously. Now, with a conscious effort, I am freeing myself from the body and putting this body on a hanger. To use it when needed. Freed from the body. I see that I have no particular shape, form, or name. Actually, I see I am everywhere. I was never born or will ever die. The terms birth and death were applied or applicable only to the body. I am one without second. There is no you. There is no world. The Atman, the I, alone is. I have no desires, for I am all that is. I am the bliss itself, the peace itself. Knowing this, I put on the body again, but knowing I am not the body, just as when we put on a jacket, we know that we are not the jacket. The jacket may be blue, black, yellow, white, but that is only the quality, the color of the jacket. I am not that. I am using it. So also let us use the body without identifying with it. Om, peace, peace, peace. So this is the 153rd class of this very popular as well as very inspiring and instructive scripture, Srimad Bhagavatam. And let us begin the discussion by our regular opening chant. So try to chant as loudly as you can. Are you able to see the text? So please use that and chant loudly. The chanting has an effect on mind. That is why I am suggesting that try to chant. जन्माद्यस्य यतोऽन्वयादितरतश्चार्थेष्वभिज्ञस्वराट् तेने ब्रह्महृदाय आदिकवये मुह्यन्ति यत्सूरयः तेजो वारिमृदां यथा विनिमयो यत्र त्रिसर्गो मृषा धाम्ना स्वेन सदा निरस्तकुहकं सत्यं परं धीमहि. That from whom creation, sustenance and dissolution of the universe take place, who is both the instrumental and material cause of it, who is omniscient, is the only one having self-mastery, being the one independent entity, who illumined the mind of Brahma with the Vedic revelation, whose wisdom is the wonder of even the greatest sages, in whom the world of the three gunas subsist, just as the combination of materials like fire, water and earth subsist in their causes without changing their elemental nature, in whose consciousness there is nothing false. On that truth supreme we meditate. Last class we started with a question from King Parikshit, that while the God is supposed to be completely impartial, we cannot think that God has likes and dislikes, likes one person, hates another person, should be same in all, and that is what God declares Himself in many scriptural these announcements. For example, in Bhagavad Gita, Lord makes an announcement. Samoham sarvabhuteshu name dveshyosti na priyah. I am same in all beings. There is no like and dislike for me. Just using our usual analogy, think that a screen is in all the different figures, people that you see in the movie. The people, the actors or the characters in the movie, they will be acting according to this story. They may be objects of like and dislike for the other characters in the movie. That somebody may say, I like this person. That is, one character in the movie can think about the other character in the movie. Or, I hate this fellow. I want to kill this fellow. One character can think about it and the other character. But for the screen, all these characters are equal. The screen is pervaded in all these characters equally. There is no like and dislike for the screen. Do you get it, Krishna? Yeah. The difference is for the one character and another character. That I understand. If somebody does something that hurts me, I take dislike for that person, hate that person. But the same person would be liked by somebody else. So there are likes and dislikes for them. But for Lord who pervades the whole existence, how can there be likes, dislikes, favors or punishments? It should not be like that. And yet all these stories that we saw, it seems that the God is partial to these angels, the devas, and doles out the kind of capital punishment to the demons to save the Indra. Why so? Why should God be partial to these Indra and other angels, and even those devotees, they were demons, but they had devotion for God. How God got them killed? It seems all very unreasonable. That how should this happen? God shouldn't have any partiality like this. So this question bothers many people. It is why that God should be partial. It especially bothers a person if that person has done something wrong and thus is being punished. That why God brought this punishment to me? God should be same for all, whether I do good or not good. The God being same in all, why should I be punished by God in this way? So, and we see this in this world. Many people get punished, many get rewarded, and yet this is a very difficult question, that on what basis does it get decided? If at all there is a basis for these things, can we understand that basis? And Shuka says that as it is, yes, God is free from all passions and partialities as the all-pervading One. When you see all-pervading One, what you say is absolutely true. God is all-pervading and has no partiality, no likes or dislikes. But that One appears through this power called Maya or Shakti. It is whatever term you use, it is the One through its inscrutable power appears as many. There is no why for that. It is just the inscrutable power of that One, because of which it appears as many. There is no causation, why and how there. We are caught in this logic and law of causation. We think that it is absolute. It cannot be absolute because it is functional only in the relative realm. That why, how, causation, it is applicable only when you see the manifold. That in the One there is no scope for it. So when you see many, then you see the connections of one to another. You see the various incidents happening, various events are taking place, and then you join the dots. That is what is called logic. The art of joining the dots. And therefore, the same events, people can join differently and come to different conclusions. It is how this is happening, this precedes that precedes that, and therefore you see there you get a feeling there is a correlation between them. It is whether there is a correlation or not, even when one is not sure that it is, you think it is possible, it is probable. I had read long time back an article in New York Times about the understanding about cholesterol and heart disease, whether they are there a causal connection or only they are just the indicators of that milestones, as it were. Are they indicators, or is there a causal connection between the levels of cholesterol, or there is no causal connection, but there are these incidental pointers. It is like the milestones. You have these milestones. They do not change the distance. They only indicate you what distance it is. So, is there such a relation or not? It is a question. So, about two incidents that you see, your mind automatically thinks of connecting them. We cannot stay without it. That is another proof, of the basic oneness of the existence. Whenever you see two, you want to connect them. What is the meaning of connecting them? making them one, as it were. Like you have the different pieces of wood. Just now, these our carpenters were working on that. Now they were different pieces of wood. Now, after joining that, all these things, quite a few pieces, now you see that it is one something. So, it is connecting logically two incidents means you try to bring about that oneness in them. And then we feel satisfied when we find that, oh, this causes this. Then we feel, now I know. It is this just spark of knowledge that comes. What has happened? Oneness has been established there. So, if you take it, to this psychology, then what it shows is when we discover the oneness, we feel that we know and we feel happy about it. And so when we are able to see all different things as one, imagine how much satisfaction we will see, how much joy will there be, how much knowledge we will be able to feel when we are seeing, oh, everything is the manifestation of that one. So, this is, we try to do that and try to connect that causally everything. And when we are not able to, we feel dissatisfied. When we see contradictions, we feel dissatisfied. Why this should happen here and not there? Because we consider the rule to be an absolute thing. It is never absolute. That is why it is said by the philosophers of science that science is basically incapable of proving anything. Science can disprove, but science can never prove. Because look at this very beautiful logic there, that science works on the available data, and connecting that data together, they come to some conclusion. And that gets accepted until some more data appears, which sometimes or often, more often than not, contradicts the data that has been accumulated earlier. I mean, doesn't contradict the data, but the conclusion based on that data gets contradicted by this new fact. There have been really numerous occasions in which in the history of science you see this. Therefore, it is really interesting to study the history of science, that how the truths which at one point were taken to be yes, correct, and so-called proved, later on they had to be changed because some new facts emerged and thus they could not be fitted into the old law. It is interesting to see the human psychology about it, that attempts were made to somehow torture that data so that it will get fitted into the law. So many attempts have been made to somehow fit the famous experiment of Michelson and Morley about it proved that the velocity of light remains constant in whatever whether you are going in the direction of light or opposite the direction of the light. The velocity of light remains the same. A conclusion that contradicts Newton's laws of motion. So, but the Newton's of laws of motion had acquired a more or less divine status, that it is, everything has to be fitted into those laws. The law of gravitation also had acquired that inverse square law. So everywhere people tried that inverse square law should be applicable everywhere. That had become this psychology. But now it cannot be fitted. The facts are big elephants, You cannot really put them to just manage into some law. So the law has to be changed. So there are these limitations under which this law will work, and not beyond that. So thus we see our logic has so many deficiencies, and yet we take that to be such a necessary thing. If something doesn't just fit into our logic, we feel disturbed. So this King Parikshit, he felt disturbed at how this God is so partial, slides with one and then kicks out another. Why? So this and the sage Shuka said that it is as screen, it is impartial to all figures that you see on this screen. But when you forget this screen as one and see that appearances, now those appearances, they have to move according to this story. And in this story, there are rules, laws, and when you see only one part of the story, you wonder why this is happening, and so forth. So, in this story, whatever happens, one cannot hold the screen responsible for that. But we hold that responsible. After all, screen does it all. That is again our logic, which works in our relative field, but we stretch it beyond its domain of applicability. There is a domain of applicability. Beyond that, that law doesn't become useful or applicable. So there is this domain where this law functions, that yes, there is the liking, disliking, the action and corresponding result, all that becomes applicable within that story. But that doesn't apply to the screen. So it is the duality that proceeds in this world. That duality, how it is? Conflicting. True and not true. Day and night, light and darkness. All they are manifestations of the same reality. In the Taittiriya Upanishad, there comes a beautiful passage in the second chapter, beginning of the second chapter, first canto, that it is that this, how it is that this Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma, the truth is that, Brahman is the truth itself, Satyam, knowledge itself, and it's infinite. Okay, but then what about all this? That very thing manifests as all this. That and then that manifestation, because it is the appearance of one in two, they are opposite to each other. They are contradictory and yet coexisting. Do you see the fun of it? That they are contradictory and they coexist. It is. So you have life and death. Contradiction, death is contradiction of life, but they coexist. That which is comes to life dies. Marching towards death gets called living. Funny, but that's true. That it is what we call life is marching towards the certain death, and we call that, yes, Yogatmananda is living. Means what? Yogatmananda is marching towards death. He is dying. Every moment the fellow is dying, we call it living. So it is the happiness and sorrow. They are like that. They two seemingly contradictory states, but they coexist. Without one, there is no possibility of other. Light and darkness, they are opposite, but they have to coexist. It is very strange, but that is how all these stories in different religions, stories of creation begin like that. That in biblical story also it is the same thing, that God made day and night to begin with. Contradictory, light and darkness. So, attacker and attacked, that is what it is described here. Somebody attacks and somebody is the attacker. Somebody is the victim and somebody is the perpetrator. So it gets divided. They stand together and fall together. And there is the criminals and the police force. They are opposite, but they stand and fall together. The doctors and the patients, they stand and fall together. If there are no patients, where is the doctor? There is because there is patient, there is corresponding to that there is doctor. Otherwise there is no doctor. There is teacher and students. There is that we say, yes, Yona is teacher. Only in relation to the students, and no students. Then what? Whose teacher are you? So, to be a teacher, there is this juxtaposed thing, that it is the opposite of it, contradictory, but they coexist. So, these are the opposite truths, they come into picture. And therefore, he said, now, let me tell you another story. This salvation of Shishupala, a very famous tale in the Indian, this Puranic lore. The Indian mythology has repeatedly brought this lore of Shishupala. The sage Shuka replies by narrating a Mahabharata story told by Narada. So this is the story within the story within the story. So there was a Rajasuya sacrifice going on. Rajasuya sacrifice happened when the Yudhishthira and Pandavas assumed the kingdom before they were made to play that game of dice, and then were exiled and so forth. So, and then came the Mahabharata war. After the Mahabharata war was over, another sacrifice was performed that was called the horse sacrifice, Ashwamedha Yajna. But before that, this was conducted, Rajasuya Yajna. So, in that, this Shishupala was killed. But while being killed, what happened was that this Shishupala, as he was killed, his being got absorbed in Krishna. His subtle body, as it were freed from the gross body, became united with Krishna. And this Yudhishthira and all others were just astonished tremendously to find how could this happen. This fellow who kept on abusing Lord all the time, constantly abusing, constantly attacking in various ways. So there is this story that Krishna's, they were related, Shishupala and his brother Dantavaktra and Krishna, they were cousins. Krishna's that father sister, that was this mother of these Dantavaktra and Shishupala. And when this little Shishupala was born, that there was it was heard from the heavens that this is an enemy of Krishna that is born. And then the mother of this little Shishupala begged Krishna, don't kill him, don't kill him. Krishna said, okay, auntie, for your sake, I will forgive 100 crimes of him. I will forgive 100 crimes of him. The mother got very assured, oh, I, my little one, will not commit 100 crimes, but how much 100, if you start committing a crime every day, now how long does it take to become 100? So, the crimes were mounting, and in this Rajasuya sacrifice, it was proposed by the great people present there that Krishna should be given the honor of the chief patron of this sacrifice, and that incensed Shishupala, and he started hurling abuses with more and more intensity, one after another. And then, as it were, the count was rising. That 80, 81, 82, like that, and then when it became 100, there was the Krishna gave a warning sign. But then 101st came, and then the Krishna's that wheel weapon, Sudarshan Chakra, it went and just beheaded Shishupala. His head became separated from the body. He was killed like that. But to the wonder of wonders, from that Shishupala's body came out this subtle body, as it were. Everybody was able to see that. and merged with Krishna. Oh my goodness, how could he, a demon, such a vile person, never stopped abusing Krishna? Such a person could attain union with Krishna? Unthinkable. That was the question, that how is it possible? Even those who serve the Lord with one-pointed devotion, this fulfillment is difficult to attain. Not easy. You have to keep on doing it without expecting any result. It may take thousands of years. We have read in the Bhagavatam previously also that people perform lot of austerities, a lot of devotional exercises for thousands of years. So it is not easy. And this fellow, can you imagine Yudhishthira puts this question, that what this demon, look at the contrast. Now this is again, we put, that justice means should be same for all. This Vena just abused Krishna, and then therefore he was punished, he was sent to hell. He was killed and when he went to hell. And why is this then? He just insulted once or twice, whereas what this Shishupala and his brother Dantavaktra, they only hurled abuses at Krishna. This very interesting. Yudhishthira uses this language that from the moment they started talking, as soon as they learned how to talk, they only kept on hurling abuses at Krishna. They didn't speak anything good about him. Now this Vena was sent to purgatory, whereas this Shishupala became, one with Krishna. How did these producers of God not only escape hell, but while we were all looking on, they got united with Lord? Please explain the rationale of this. We want rationale, you see. Now, this question was put to Narada, the great sage Narada, who was present in that sacrifice. So, whosoever is a very wise person in the assembly, they ask, hey, please, can you shed some light on this? Why this is happening like this? Please give us some reason, some logic. That it is all very bewildering, confusing. So Narada replies. Now again, this is a constant problem when we confuse the absolute with the relative. The absolute and the relative, like the screen and the picture. Because we are seeing it together, we confuse one for the other. Very difficult to avoid this confusion. But one has to make a concerted effort at avoiding this confusion. I remember after I joined the order, in a few days, I made some such question to one of the Swamis, and he said, avoid confusing between the relative and absolute. Absolute has its place, and without absolute there cannot be relative. But the laws are applicable only in the relative. They are not applicable to the absolute. This is something that we have to remember, our Yona doesn't seem to agree. That you don't agree. The laws should be applicable to the absolute also. What do you think? You agree? Okay. I thought you were nodding like that, so it is. So, the laws, we try to stretch it, that it is a tendency of mind. Again, the basic reason is this is all one. The relative is to be absorbed in absolute. We have to see that together, but we make a confusion. So, as we think more deeply, meditate more deeply, this distinction starts getting clear, that the relative has existence only because of the absolute. And yet, the absolute is not touched at all by what happens to the relative. So, therefore, he says, look at this contrast. Narada replies, the embodied state is meant for experience of these contradictory conditions. We get embodied, we take up the body. Why? To experience all these contradictions, life and death, likes and dislikes. It is so, easy that you like somebody one moment, dislike at another moment. Why? Sometimes you like him, sometimes don't like him. Yeah, it is, yeah. This is, yeah. It is a very common phenomena, Why? This is how you, one gets into the body, getting into the body is not a problem. But getting identified with the body, now you want to learn that this is not right, and therefore you are subjected to these contradictions. And so that you learn, oh, this is not real, otherwise how do I like at one moment and dislike at another moment? It happens only because it is not real, that the embodied state is not real. I am not the body. So it is with body, when I am this body, I am not another body. And yet this body has affinity at one time to another body, and then hatred for another body, and that keeps on shifting and changing. It is some food you like at one point, dislike at another point, because this is how this condition is. It is meant to make us aware that this is not the whole picture. This is not the reality. When we meditate and become, identified with the absolute, and yet are aware of the reality. And that is why the study of life of Sri Ramakrishna is so important, that he is identified with God, the Absolute, and at the same time he is seeing the relative. At the relative level, he perfectly is identified or behaves like the relative is, without losing the sense or the consciousness that that is not his true nature. He is the divine, all pervading, and yet in the relative he is so, exact that all same doesn't mean that he calls Balram as Naren. No, Balram will be called as Balram. No confusion. Once that his disciple Latu Maharaj, at that time he was doing service to Sri Ramakrishna, where Sri Ramakrishna would go somewhere, he would carry his things and accompany him. So once as they were about to get into the carriage, Sri Ramakrishna asked him, "Hey, did you take that towel and the cloth to change after going there? Did you take it?" He said, "I took the towel, but I forgot the cloth to wear." It doesn't matter, the host will give you us easily, happily give you one. He said, "What nonsense, it is, why cause trouble to those hosts? It is, see, when I get into that samadhi situation, then I don't know what is what. Whether I have put on clothes or not, I am not aware of that. And yet, in the relative world, I never forget these things." Very particular. Swami Sardhananda describes that each and everything in his room was kept in such a neat, exact, and very harmonious manner. He had so many different things in the room given by people. He has various pictures, images, and everything has its own proper placement. Moving them here and there will not work. And yet, he was beyond all this. So, when in the relative world confusion occurs, after all is one, why should we be particular about it? No, you should be particular here. But you should know the limits of particularization. It does not become applicable to the absolute, the divine, the all-pervading level, but otherwise it is applicable to all. That is why, we side with one and we see injustice, and then our Charlie vehemently says, "No, it has to be corrected. Let us protest. Let us get onto the street. Let us occupy Providence," and so forth, you see. It is, it is all right, there is injustice, you see, fight against it. But do not pull in God there, that why God did like that. God didn't do anything. And therefore, even when you want to bring in justice, do it. That let me see that all this injustice is removed. But soon you will see that by one injustice you removed and another injustice you have implanted. And that is what that French Revolution is a great example of that. These experiments of socialism in Soviet, that is another example of that. Individual freedom to everyone. Let them earn through their own qualities and determination and hard work. Whatever they earn, they get. Capitalism. All these are the different ways to usher in justice, but they end up in creating new systems of injustice. Because that is the order of this relative world. There can never be a full justice. Full justice is in the screen only. It is without the conflict, there is no movie or story possible. You cannot make a movie without a story. I told you one devotee wanted to make a play on Ganesha, that for our children's camp, this time we'll make a play on Ganesha. And then she asked me, show me some incidents, conflicting incidents in the life of Ganesha. I said, why? I don't know any conflicting incidents in Ganesha. Then I cannot write a play, because to write a play, there has to be conflicts. So this world is like that. There has to be conflicts in that. But when you hold on to the truth, the conflicts are then non-existent. So due to the identification with the physical body, the living beings suffer physical pains and insults. But the Supreme Being is free from such identification. What is important is that the mind is constantly fixed on God. And this is a great truth that we shall, today's time is almost over, so we shall not go into it today because it requires some more deliberation. So coming Friday, we shall discuss this, that in this God alone is real, and who can get liberated is the one whose mind is filled with God. So this point will be deliberated in relation to Shishupala, whose mind is filled with God, but God as an object of hatred and enmity. I am inimical to God. God is my enemy. So what is he meditating on? What, Jitendra? On God. No other object but God. So therefore he gets liberated. This will be explained more, and we shall see it in the next class. By the grace of God, we shall conclude with this closing chant. And then if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them. Nigamakалпатарургalitam phalam shukamukhadamritadravasamyutam pibata bhagavatam rasamalayam muhurho rasika bhuvi bhavukaha. O devotees, quaff to intoxication this nectar of the fruit of the tree of Vedas, flowing from the mouth of the great sage Shuka and mixed with the ambrosia from his words. Any questions? Anybody has any question? There is no question here. Is there any question there? No. So we will get an early release today. Let us conclude with the closing chant of the name of God. Mukunda Madhava Govinda Bol, Keshava Madhava Hari Hari Bol. Mukunda Madhava Govinda Bol, केशव माधव हरि हरि बोल, हरि हरि बोल, हरि हरि बोल। कृष्ण कृष्ण बोल, कृष्ण कृष्ण बोल, कृष्ण कृष्ण बोल, कृष्ण कृष्ण बोल। मुकुंद माधव गोविंद बोल, केशव माधव हरि हरि बोल, केशव माधव हरि हरि बोल।